Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums and healers in Sedona, Arizona. We are Rozlyn Reynolds, myself, Ivory LaNoue, and Terri Ann Russell. We see clients from all over the world in our offices in Sedona, Arizona. Today's topic is healing a broken heart. I'm going to do a quick shout out to our fans in the UK. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it and so happy to know that you're listening to the show. So let's just take a moment to say mending a broken heart. It takes a lot of self-compassion. I think people go into some really dark places and negative thinking, and the whole healing process can't be rushed, right? It's going to take some time, but healing is possible. I know I've healed myself of a broken heart a couple times. How about you, ladies?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
You can't get to this age in life and not have had your heart broken a couple times at least.
And then you have to heal and learn from it, because then, when you say never, Roz and I have both said never again. And then in came the next one.
Yeah, if I wrote down all the times I've said never again, I could stretch that list all the way to probably the other side of the earth.
I am so done. And in walks a man who's just not a carbon copy of the last ones, right? They're out there. They're out there. I know, because I know some wonderful men. And that goes for women too. I mean, there's men listening to this show who are dealing with broken hearts. And every time I forget, something will be put in my face that men go through the same things women do. They have their own version of this, and everyone's hearts can be broken. So we're not just talking to the ladies out there. Let's talk about breakups, with us, especially if they broke off the relationship. It wasn't you who wanted to end it. I think that makes it a lot harder, a little more healing to be done, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think too, when you have children involved, we've all had children involved too. I think that complicates it a little bit more. And it seemed like when you were younger, it was just easier for some reason. I don't know why.
I think because we were naive. We didn't know everything that could happen in a relationship. And so I was thinking about this yesterday, not in relation to the show, but how I was when I was a teenager and in my early, especially late teens. I thought I was living in some sort of a movie, I think. I was just going through life, just happy as can be and trusting and oh my God, I look back on things and I'm like, no wonder when I said I was getting married, I remember a friend, Celia, saying, and another one's like, you're just a baby. I was 19 and I was so hurt when they said that, but I was just a baby. And so sometimes it's easier, love, the whole thing of love when you're young, you just don't know what to look out for. You don't know the red flags to look for because you haven't experienced them yet. And you're not going to listen to the people who have, because you're an adult, you know it all, right? So I'm so wise now.
I always say you're the smartest you'll ever be at 18, because it seems like when your kids turned 18, they knew it all, right?
My daughter hit that at 15. Hi, Michelle. Oh God. But I think part of the problem is that when you have a breakup, your mind is going through the good parts of the relationship and like, oh, it was so much fun to do this. And I loved it when they did this. And, but you're really not thinking about what led to this, because if you really step back and you look at things, you can see that this coming. It would not be a surprise to you. And you probably knew it needed to happen, but you didn't want to face it. It's rarely a total surprise.
Interesting. Interesting perspectives when you look back on it all.
Oh, yeah.
Terri Ann and I have an upcoming birthday this month, and I am utterly shocked to realize that I've reached the age that I have, considering.
Didn't think you'd make it?
No, I never thought I'd make it past 42. I had a vision. And actually, I did have a huge medical emergency at that age, but I always knew I was either going to choose to stay or choose to go. Well, you know what? When that happened, I had 4 small children. Guess what? I wasn't going nowhere. So you just never can predict how things are going to go. And I think in the broken heart and love quadrant, that's extremely true.
Let's
I'm
get
still here.
when you get back to the having children thing that you both brought up, that's so crucial, because if you don't have children together, it's easier because you can just avoid them, never talk to them, never see them hardly, push them out of your life. But if you have children together, you are connected through those children through the rest of their lives, one way or
And
another.
and I mean, and the grandchildren and it goes on and on.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And that's why we want to do our work, right? To heal all that. Because I always say, I'm not coming back and doing this one again.
Oh gosh, no. Oh gosh, it's been a really rough life. No, thank you. I think we need to talk about like what causes heartbreak. I mean, generally that you're just missing the person, but what causes it? You get into the relationship and it's new and your thoughts are uplifting, you're positive, you're like, oh, this is so wonderful, because you're in limerence. And if you don't know what that is, that's the chemical state of the beginning of a relationship, what they call being in love, feeling in love. It's a chemical rush to your brain called limerence. It can't last forever, or you would die from it, like an overdose, a chemical overdose. No, seriously, you would die. So you can't be in love like that forever. That's why it needs to settle down to a comfortable place. But you may have felt good about yourself early on. And even with a toxic relationship, they might be love bombing you, telling you all these wonderful things, telling you how beautiful you are and overly affectionate, even like you might be uncomfortable, telling you, how great how smart you are. I only want to be with you. I just want to spend time with you. All the things you wish you had heard from somebody else. But when it ends, your thoughts start to get mixed because you're thinking about that. You got that positive messages combined with own judgmental thoughts like, why did they not want to be with me anymore? Am I not enough? Am I so something faulty, something wrong with me? We can be really hard on ourselves when things aren't going well in a relationship or it's over, especially when it's over.
Yeah. I think the self-compassion, we have a really hard time, all people, giving ourselves that compassion. I mean, it's easy for a lot of us to give it to other people, right? If we have a friend that breaks up with somebody, if they're heartbroken, it's so easy to give it to that person. But when it's yourself, it's like you're so much harder on yourself. Like I heard somebody say once, you would never say the things that you say to yourself to somebody else.
It is true. It's true. And we find ourselves talking about this over and over, that we need to be kinder to ourselves. And here's another area of life. Go ahead, Roz.
Well, I think in dealing with the broken heart too, there's always the possibility, like what I experienced, where all the things that you guys are talking about that someone, has not said to you, but you're saying in your head. Well, I had someone actually saying all those things. So the interesting part in applying that to your situation is you have to really look at it and go, why would I have a broken heart? Why am I feeling this way? When obviously it was not a connection that was viable and really brought out the best in my life, or, my husband's life either, or my boyfriend's life, or my significant other, or whatever it is. And taking a look at that, just from a logical standpoint, you have to kind of say, hey, there's no reason to be having a broken heart, because this is working out for the best for everyone involved. So I think when you're grieving and you're feeling all that sorrow and everything, if you can detach from all the drama of that and really look at it from a practical standpoint and say, just wasn't the right situation. So,
no. And don't you think people really kind of come to this place where they're like, oh, I'm just terrible at picking. I can't trust my judgment anymore. But I don't believe that those relationships, even the really horrible ones, I don't think they're a mistake or a waste of time. I think for myself, looking back on it, which is so much easier to do from a distance, to see that the lessons I learned were powerful and they helped me overcome my too trusting nature, where I was innocent about relationships and I did not see negative things about people, warning signs, red flags, and to my detriment. And it also wisened me up to do this work, because I have all these women coming to me who in toxic relationships, coming out of toxic relationships, and how would I be able to help them if I hadn't been through this? So clearly it is part of my path. But I wanted to say too that we have to be careful, because once we start thinking negatively and we are having these negative thoughts roll around in our head, it's very easy to stop taking care of ourselves, not showering, not eating right, not getting enough sleep, or oversleeping, not getting together with family and friends, and just generally not taking care of ourselves well. So go ahead, Roz.
And I think that brings up a really good point, because when you are experiencing all the emotion of these situations, and I mean, it's pretty extreme, and your mind is just running through all these different scenarios and how you feel about you, how you feel about them. You can get so enmeshed in that whole process that your mind is overtaken to the point where you're no longer thinking, okay, I'm going to look at this practically and logically. I'm going to realize that, yeah, I need to work on me. I need to work on my emotions. I need to see this for what it was. And what is the lesson? That's my big question to myself, is always, okay, what's the lesson? What am I missing? And once you start that thought process, you're much more inclined to move through the situation and realize, yes, this is heartbreaking, but maybe in the long term for the best.
Almost always, right? Almost always. I do think there's the ones who got away. Go ahead, Terri Ann.
I was going to say, yeah, a lot of times too, where we're such in that naive place that we think somebody else is going to help us get over it too. You're always like, oh, but it was all him. It wasn't me. I remember being young and thinking that, like, I couldn't have done anything wrong here. And then you go back to the other thing, like, what is wrong with me? What did I do? Right. So you sort of have that back and forth, like the ebbs and the flows of grief that surrounds, ending a relationship, and especially when you have children. But if you're not taking that time to heal yourself, I think that's really crucial in this part. I would say throughout my life, that's one of the things, the most important lessons that I've learned, is taking that time to heal, because it's so necessary. So you don't want to repeat the same things. I know I've said over and over again, I don't want to repeat the same pattern. And it's like, what you don't repair, you repeat, right? So you continue it on and on and on. So I was really going to make sure after my last one that I was going to do the work and I was going to heal before I intended to go into another relationship.
Amen, sister. It's been 8 years for me, and I feel like I'm pretty much ready now to get into another relationship, but it took 8 years. But, if you've been through something that's really damaging with a really dark, toxic, narcissist, sociopath kind of thing, it's going to take more healing. And if you can't do it jumping into another relationship, that will never work. You're dooming your next relationship. But what I wanted to talk about was, if you're the one who does the breaking up, you're probably going through feelings of guilt and sadness, oh gosh, I'm hurting them. Look how much they're hurting. But there's a reason you want to break up that relationship. There's a reason you want it to be over. You're going to miss certain things. You might miss certain things about them. But when you know in your heart that it is not the right thing for you, yeah, you're going to feel these things, but they will pass. And if you're the one getting broken up with, well, then you feel rejected, right? You feel rejected. You feel inadequate. Oh my goodness. And then you got to go through the stages of grief, because the breakup of a relationship is the same stages of grief as a death. So, and it takes what it takes. That's what we always say, you know, when it comes to grieving, you can't put a timeline on it. Some people are going to get through it really fast and some are going to take a long time. And you might feel sad about a breakup of a relationship for a long time, but the more you start turning inward and working on yourself, the faster you're going to heal. Bottom line.
And then the faster too that you're going to be that vibrational match for what you want. We always talk about frequency and vibration, how important it is. When you look at that, you know, you can't be up here and accepting what's down here with that level of toxicity. So you have to be a vibrational match. You've got to raise your frequency, change your thinking, change your thoughts, change your patterns, your beliefs, everything. So you start doing that inner work. And then that starts reflecting. Sometimes it takes a while, but it starts reflecting in your physical world after that.
Absolutely. And I just think probably the biggest thing is giving yourself time. Don't rush it. And a lot of times you'll hear things, people will say things to a person with a broken heart. They'll say, aren't you over him by now? Aren't you done with her? I mean, hasn't that person put you through enough? That's not helpful. You know, just let that roll off your back because it has nothing to do with your healing process. So if you still feel sad, let yourself feel sad. Just don't wallow in it. One trick I like that I learned when I was working in the mental health field that was great when somebody got stuck in one of the processes of grief where they're just crying a lot, to have them set a timer and a certain time every day. They get 10 minutes and they can cry as much as they want. But when the dinger goes off, you have to stop crying. And people are like, what? And then it works. And then the next week you set it for 9 minutes until eventually it gets down to 2 or 3 minutes. And people are like, I can't cry. I can't make myself cry. Do I still have to do this? No, you're done. So, you know, it just helps you start to control your emotions a bit so you can function better. You can get to work. You can take care of your kids. You can get back to life without feeling sad all the time. You're looking at me like, what?
No, I think that's really good. I think, you know, expressing that is really important. A lot of times we stuff it down and that's not good, but we have to learn how to express it in a healthy way. We have to learn how, like you said, not to sit in it or wallow in it, but to, you know, we have to acknowledge what we're feeling. If we're feeling heartbroken, we have to acknowledge it and we have to be in a place where that's acceptable. And I think so many of us have not allowed ourselves to feel what our emotions are. You know, they've always been, you don't talk about that, you don't feel that, you know, and so you squash it down. And what happens when you squash it down? It becomes stagnant energy, it becomes disease in your body, you become resentful and hateful. And so you could become toxic. So I think expressing it that way, giving yourself that time every day to allow those emotions to flow is crucial. I like that.
It is. And if you grew up in a family where having emotions isn't okay, where they said, don't you dare cry. Are you angry? You know, go to your room. You're like, you're not allowed to feel anything. So when you get to be an adult and you have a breakup, you might be thinking, I shouldn't feel so sad. But try flipping that to say, I'm experiencing feelings of sadness and that's okay. You know, I'm missing them and that's okay, but it doesn't mean that I want this relationship back or that it's good for me, you know, or I'm feeling angry today and it will pass. You know, it's put a name on it. Naming that emotion helps you if you didn't have a lot of emotional nurturing as a child, you might really have trouble with this process. Because there's so many emotions that are come raging up and swirling around. And some people don't even know how they feel. And I learned this again, working in mental health. There's this chart that came out that was like little faces on it that were expressing different emotions. And they would teach people who couldn't say how they feel, like point to the face that you're feeling like, you know, so put a name on it. Oh, that one is frustrated. Okay, you're frustrated today. Yes, I'm frustrated. And that actually taught them, you know, how to identify their emotions. It's okay. My gosh, we're human beings. We're going to have emotions galore. They're going to come flying up in the beginning. That's going to be emotion soup, right? Flying in every direction. So many different things. You don't know what you're feeling from one minute to the next. And you just can be overwhelmingly sad. And again, that feeling of rejection. But like Ross said, it's good to take a step back and look at, was this relationship really in my best and highest good? Even if you're not the one who broke up with them, was it really in my best and highest good? Were my needs being met? Were my emotional needs, my physical needs, all of these different kind of needs you can have? And if they weren't, I think that'll help you start looking at that relationship realistically and understanding why it couldn't continue. I'm always afraid when I use that raise your hand feature, that's how I accidentally stop the recording because it's right next to it. Why do they do that to the hosts? Bad planning, Zoom.
Need to redo that button.
Yeah, you do. I'm trying so hard not to do that. Go ahead, Roz.
So I think one thing that's a very common factor here, and Terri Ann mentioned this earlier, like, of course, now you're going through all the emotions and all of the repercussions of the breakup. You're analyzing, you're thinking about, everything. And this again brings up the situation of if you're in a family environment. And I think this is really important, that you manage your grief effectively if you're a mom. You just can't go into a state of total and complete overwhelm and not be functional, because other people, little people, are depending on you. And this is a really important aspect for you to have, kind of like the inner calmness to realize I need to first of all, make it known that my kids are still very high priority. They need to know that. They need to be reassured that even though you're experiencing grief, you're still functional, that you can still. And I realize that for a lot of people, that is extremely difficult. They aren't so functional. They're, involved in anxiety, depression, all of these issues. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, it always comes back to, okay, I'm in charge here. I'm the one who is making sure that my kids are taken care of, that they're, that they are loved and they know that they're loved. And that's super high priority. It just has to be. So you can be grieving and experiencing all that we go through, but you also have to realize that they're grieving too, and they're experiencing this trauma with you. So keeping your act together is pretty important.
It is
easier said than done, but
true.
it's pretty stressful when you realize that you're not the only one, going through this whole experience. And in this process, you're also helping your children learn these management skills, because as you said, I mean, this is just something that we all have experience with. So it's important to keep it together.
Some lucky devils experience it in grade school, and that's all. I'd rather have been that person. Go ahead, Terri Ann.
I was going to say, yeah, and experience it and to go through those emotions healthy. Before I was spiritual, I was just having my spiritual awakening, but I used meditation a lot to help me relax through that process, because I was very overwhelmed and I had a young child, and you're learning a whole new way of being, right? It's like your whole family dynamic changes, and I wasn't working, so I had no income, and we had to totally learn how to do different things. So I found that meditation was really crucial for me in helping to relax me, bring me inside and focus inward rather than focusing on everything that was going wrong out here. Focus on what was in here and what was I feeling. And that helped me to relax more, be happier, bring that joy back into our lives when it was turned upside down.
And that's a big deal to find a source of joy. You've got to find things that make you happy, that bring joy back in your life. And I really feel like if you start with small things, if you're really stuck with that, start with small things. Like maybe go listen to some live music that's your favorite kind of music, and just close your eyes and just listen, be there, experience it. Look at some flowers that are blooming, just go out somewhere in nature and listen to birds singing and the wind through the trees. Simple things like that can just bring you back into yourself, like take away all of this extraneous emotional stuff and just bring you back to some simple joys. One of my favorite things, like when I was going through my last breakup, I kept having this repetitive dream. I was thinking about it a couple of days ago. I was sitting in a meadow and cute little puppies were jumping all over me, and they were licking me, and I was laughing, and there was like 7 puppies jumping all over me, and it made me so happy. I'd wake up laughing, and I feel like my angels sent me that dream to help me heal, because I had it repetitively during the last breakup, and I don't normally dream about animals. So but I love puppies. So that was really fun. And I would wake up just feeling so good, and my day would be better. So, sometimes our subconscious thoughts can really help. And yeah, your angels can help you. Ask your angels to send you something to help you find joy. Angels help me find joy. Angels help me find serenity. And if you don't know how to get it, if you're not sure if meditation, like Terri Ann was saying, if you're not sure that's for you or what you should do, let them lead you to it, because it's so easy to be frozen in extreme emotions and do nothing. And then people end up in bed for months, right? Curled up in bed, non-functioning. I like to have people make a list of what they like about themselves. So it can be things that people have told you that they like about you. You're very kind. You're always there for people. You're very generous. Your heart's so lovely, whatever it is about you that they say. And then it helps you get the ball rolling of things you like about yourself. I like this, I like that. Make a list and tape it up somewhere where you're going to see it. And the angels are coming in really powerfully about this. So I don't know if there's somebody or several somebodies out there who really need that, just to see some positive things. One thing, I had a client who decided she was going to make a list. And Roz, you brought this up to me, because talking about being in a relationship with somebody who says nasty things to you. I had one who would say things like, I realize how stupid you are. You don't know anything about anything. And I knew that wasn't true about me. But, when somebody spends 10 years saying horrific things to you, just terrible things, it really gets in your head. So I like to go back and to know that it's not me, that I can be a good partner. And I have been a good partner. Make a list of things that you did for your last relationship that were positive. I made them coffee. I packed their lunch. I always said, I love you, and gave them a kiss before they left. And, all the kind things you did, the nice things you did for them on a regular basis, or special things you did maybe one time. Make a list of that, because you need to see that visceral list there of things you did that made you a good partner. You're not a bad person because that relationship didn't make it. You're not defective. It's like, I think Roz was talking about this, was it Roz about the energetic match, or was that you, Terri Ann? Terri Ann, about the energetic match. It's so true. Like, you may have been an energetic match, and you were on the same path when you got together, and that's why things worked. But then you started working on yourself personally or spiritually or both, and you go on a different trajectory, and you're no longer an energetic match. And very often that's exactly what the problem is. And boy, the angels are coming in again about this. It's a simple energetic mismatch. And when you can look at this list of the things you did that were good as a partner, you can start seeing, I'm not defective. I was just the wrong person. Go ahead, Terri Ann.
Before I was spiritual, I used to say that I would like reinvent myself every 3 to 5 years. So I didn't understand what transformation was at that point, but I knew that I would become different. I read a lot, so I understood. I was reading books. I was very curious. So before even knowing about what transformation was, I would just say that every 3 to 5 years, I would start to change and reinvent myself. And, that's when, like you said, a lot of times you fall into that place because you are changing and you're not becoming energetically vibrational anymore. So that happens. So I think books are another great way Start reading, start learning more about yourself, self-development. As you go within and you start to learn more stuff, you start to see a whole new world that opens before you through books or podcasts.
Absolutely. There's a reason why these things are so popular. It's because it gives you a new perspective, new thoughts, new ideas. I want to give you some specific affirmations that you can say. You can write affirmations, you write them down on a piece of paper, tape them to your bathroom mirror. It's a good place. And you say them looking yourself in the eye in the mirror, and you say it like you mean it 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night till you mean it. And some samples, you can write your own, but I am not my mistakes. I am enough. There's no wrong decision. I am loving and lovable. And I think that one is so important, because you can come out of a broken relationship feeling like no one's ever going to love you. And that's not true. Again, energetic mismatch. So those are really helpful. Write your own, if some come to your mind, it's most important that they be something you really want to believe and words you're comfortable saying. So it's best to put it in your own words. What about acknowledging thoughts about your former partner? Oh, did you want to say something else
I was
about
just
that
going to
last
add
time?
to that. I think it was Tony Robbins. He calls them incantations. So he stands there like Superman, very powerful, with his arms behind him, and he says that I am powerful. Your words bring so much to the table. That's a vibration as well. So when we speak it, we really have to mean it when we're saying it, right? I am powerful. So whatever it is, and when you put yourself in that stance, whoever's listening, to try it for a second, just, your back arched, your arms next to you, just like Superman, your legs a couple of feet apart, and see what a difference it makes in how your body actually feels.
Yeah, that's very true. And I learned that on watching Grey's Anatomy. One of the doctors is like doing the superhero pose before they go into surgery. I tried it myself and I did feel rather powerful, I must say. So good idea, Terri Ann. Let's talk about thinking about your partner. So you're thinking back to some things that they said to you, things they did. And, when you're doing that, when you feel like those are important things, you're judging them. And as long as you're in that place of judgment, you're not healing. So I know it was Roz, brought up something earlier that I think is so important, is stepping out of the emotions of the situation and just being an observer. Let's look at what they did. Like you're not the partner, like you're just somebody looking in a window and watching this scene, and they're not some pervert, just an observer. But you're seeing what's going on, you're hearing what they're saying, and you're detaching emotionally from it. Then you can witness it. You're witnessing an action of a sentence that they said. And then you start being able to learn from it. It comes circling back to that whole thing of learning lessons. One thing I meant to say too earlier, we were talking about it and I got distracted, but this whole thing of cycles, like it's very easy to get stuck in a cycle. This is one way to, this and your affirmations and all kinds of things are ways that you can avoid getting in a cycle. And I was in one where I kept picking people who were emotionally unavailable. And that can be somebody who just was raised in an environment where emotions were not allowed. It can be somebody who's narcissistic, sociopathic, anything like that, where they just are completely not in touch with their emotions. And so they can't understand yours. This is really good practice to start looking at as you move forward when you're ready to start dating again, to really be aware of what those, I call them red flag behaviors were. Observing, like just witnessing, detached from emotions, lets you see from the early part of this broken relationship where you could have really gotten a hint that things were not in your best and highest good. They were not behaving or speaking or treating you in a way that valued you and showed you love and showed you respect. But you took it, you accepted it for some reason, and there's no judgment about that. It's just a fact. But if you're aware of those things, then moving forward, you're less likely to get involved in somebody else like that, because you're going to see that. You're going to see those behaviors. You're going to be like, next. And you're powerful. Then you can stand in the superhero position too and go next and be, 10 times more powerful in it. But it's helpful to not get involved with another person who's an energetic mismatch or just plain bad for you. All those things can be tricky.
Yeah,
So
I read
what,
somewhere recently, either you, a lot of times empaths, they'll either attract somebody that is narcissistic, or they also attract somebody who is going to bring something to them to help them really enhance their lives, really learn about themselves. So those are usually the two types of people that an empath will attract. So it's your choice, higher vibrational or lower vibrational.
you're
You
not
want
going
to,
to be able, you won't be able to stop attracting them, but you can catch it and pass on them and not get involved.
right.
If there was a way to stop attracting them, I would invest large money into that device or process. I think you have to find some relief, whether it's exercise, movement, all of those things can help you start discharging negative emotions and kind of get your body revved up again and ready to move forward in life. So just go for some walks, get yourself out and moving. If you like to dance, go dancing, walking, whatever it is. I've got a bunch of friends locally who love to play pickleball. They call it their therapy. And I think this is why, because they just feel so much better. And if nothing else, it takes you out of your head for that period of time. So it's good. Obvious one, avoid activities that remind you of your ex. Avoid going to places that you think they're going to be. I mean, it's inevitable. You'll probably run into them if you live in the same town or nearby eventually, but don't go out of your way. Do not follow them on social media. As a matter of fact, do not be friends on social media with them. Do not follow them. Don't check on their social media, because all you're doing is like reopening a healing wound and saying, hurt me some more. So why would you want to do that to yourself? So don't self wound in this way. We talked about finding the meaning. What do you think helped you ladies in finding the meaning for why you went through what you went through?
I always go back to what is the lesson? What is the lesson here? And in what aspect, do I need to revise my life to be in a situation where I'm not dealing with this ever again? And change is required. Sometimes we're not wanting to change. We're not ready. We want to, sadly, we kind of want to stay in that trauma mode for a little while, but it really serves no purpose. So the sooner you recognize that and acknowledge that and start to work on your issues, the sooner you will return to a place of peace.
Once a little time goes by, you can really look at like what happened in the year after that relationship ended for you. What happened in your life, in the way you think about yourself and the world, in your personal or spiritual growth? What about your career? All those things. What were positive changes that happened? And I think that's a big part of why the relationship happened. Perhaps you could have never gotten there. I'm here to tell you right now, I'm pretty darn sure that if I hadn't been through that last relationship with such a dark, awful person, that I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be having my spirituality business. I wouldn't be helping people. I wouldn't have written my book. I'd still be living across the mountain in Prescott and working in the field of mental health. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I loved it. But it was time for me to make this change. And I'd known since I was 18. So that's a bit a while ago, just so you know. So it was time for me to make this change, and I wouldn't do it. And apparently I needed this. I needed this kick in the butt. And it was more like multiple kicks in the butt, launching me across the planet, came back. Oh, I'm supposed to do this.
We always say that. I know for me, like I don't do subtlety. I always say to my guides, you have to knock me on the head if you want me to know something. It's like 333. No, that's not going to work for me. I need to know. So you need to knock me on the head. In my case, I don't think I could have, similar to yours, I don't think I could have grown into who I was supposed to be had I stayed in that relationship. It just wasn't possible for me. He would have never allowed me to be who I was supposed to be. And I didn't realize that obviously until years later as my spiritual awakened, quickened and happened. So
I want to make it very clear that by no means am I going back to this person and saying, thank you for being so horrible to me. Thank you for the hellish circumstances you put me through, because no, but I thank my angels for helping me find the path that brought me to my mission, to my spiritual work, my life purpose, whatever you want to put it, that brought me here, because I've never been happier in the work that I do than what I'm doing now. It feels so right. And I would have stayed because I already was happy in my career and I had so many good friends and activities there, but it wasn't my path. So just be open to the fact that sometimes what you're meant to do isn't always what you think you want to do. And you don't know how good it'll be till you're in it. And if you can look at your failed relationship as something that gave you a benefit, and if you're in it right now, if you just broke up, you're not going to be able to see this. But later, when you start to heal, really try this exercise, look back and see like what you gained from it, because it can give you a different perspective and help you just let go of all the emotions that are tying you to that person, because it's like dragging around a literal ball and chain emotionally. Nothing to be gained from it, right?
Well, and also if you feel that you have successfully moved on, you've let go of any negative emotional impact, you're still, going through your life, and then you connect with the person that was the ultimate result of this, that also speaks directly to things you learned in that relationship. And we always, many of us have come out of these situations and said, I'm not interested in being in another relationship, I'm just happy on my own. And when you've reached that point, to me, you're at the epic result where you're good with yourself, you've made peace with whatever you needed to address in yourself, in the situation, and then all of a sudden you meet the person that you realize was coming somehow, some way. And we have a lot of discussion now. We hear a lot of things about twin flames and soulmates. I do believe that every person that we meet, that we are in these relationships with, even though it's painful, there is a value there. And there is, in the end result, you realize things about yourself that alter, as you mentioned earlier, I read, the kind of person that you would ever consider coming into your life. So I think even though they're very painful, they have an incredible value too. And that's your life path. I mean, maybe meeting this person that you were in a relationship with for a very long time, and it wasn't what you'd hoped or dreamed, it still brought you, like you said, to where you are now. That's the important thing, I think.
It is. It is. And just keep in mind, we're all meant to grow and change and learn. And it doesn't always happen at the same time and in the same way within a relationship. Sometimes one person changes and the other doesn't. So be gentle with yourself. You're changing, you're growing, you're healing, and you can't force yourself to go through that. And it's okay to not feel great for a while. Give yourself time to process the loss of your relationship, practice self-compassion, and tune in next week, because The topic is integrity of a spiritual leader. And in the meantime, we hope you have a beautiful week.
I didn't catch you.
Terri Ann's holding up her book, holding up our books.
I was
Almost forgot.
prepared today, so.
It was prepared and I forgot. So there we go. We have books on Amazon. And Terri Ann, do you want to just talk a little bit about what your book's about?
So my book, From Death to Life, The Incredible True Story of Anthony Joseph, is the story of connection between my son who passed suddenly at 27 and I, and how our relationship continued on after, it's almost about 3 years now. It's hard to believe, but so it's about the connection afterwards and how he helped me through that grieving process.
It's amazing. And it's been amazing to witness this happening, like as it unfolded. My book, Let Your Angels Lead, is about teaching you how to feel, see, and hear your angels so you can get the maximum angelic guidance for your life. And again, they're available on Amazon. And now, for real, we'll see you next week. Have a beautiful week.